So let's start talking about these quarterbacks. Let's talk about the room, and we'll start at the top, meaning the older guy first, and then we'll work our way down. Jack Coan is the transfer, and we've talked about him previously, so we're not going to dive completely into what Jack Coan is, but it's more the question of what does Jack Coan need to do to be the starting quarterback at Notre Dame in the spring? Is it going to be a clear-cut situation leaving spring? Is the competition still going to be open, et cetera? So what is Jack Coan, first time in the offense, first time at Notre Dame, what does he need to do to be the starting quarterback at Notre Dame?
I think, first of all, he's going to step into the spring as a starting quarterback, right? So to me, it's more about what does he need to do to keep the job and play at a high level? What are the things we need to see from him this spring to begin with? Number one, he needs to get healthy, right? He missed the last season because of a foot injury, so I'm curious to see what his conditioning level is going to be. Is he going to be full go? I don't know the answers to that. I would imagine he's going to be full go based on when his injury happened. I believe it was in fall camp.
Okay.
And it was a foot injury, so he should be good to go through those things. He's going to have to fight like crazy to get acclimated with the people at Notre Dame. That means, things he should already be doing. He should already be organizing workouts with the receivers, things that I've heard. I talked to a source the other day that said that the quarterbacks, and the word I was told was quarterbacks, have been doing a lot of organizing offensive workouts on their own, which they're allowed to do.
Kids can get together anytime they want.
And so that's a good sign, that some of the quarterbacks are taking, and again, I was told it was multiple players that are involved in this are taking that bull by the horn. And of course, Jack Coan's going to be part of that, right?
Sure.
And so getting acclimated with them as players, but also getting acclimated with them as people. I think one of the things that I would suggest to guys, and this may sound silly to people, but this is super important.
I know where you're going.
One thing I would do is say, hey, look, why don't you, if you're living off campus, have your offensive linemen over for a week and with the other quarterbacks. I mean, show leadership in that room as well. Don't exclude the other quarterbacks so you can, hype up the offensive linemen, because that could then rub some people the wrong way.
Sure.
But have the other quarterbacks and the offensive linemen over for the events and different things like that. Stick to the COVID protocols, obviously, but have those things, build those relationships to where those guys know that you're in this and you're as committed as they are to going out and winning this year. And I think if you win over your position mates, and then you win over the linemen, and everything else will fall into place, right? Because receivers are going to love you if you get them the ball.
As long as they're getting the rock, man. It's all that matters.
So you can be their best buddy, but if you don't get them the rock, it's like, hey, man, I love you, but, we need to maybe play this other dude because he gets me the ball. So I think those are the things I think he needs to do first and foremost, because he's got to win that trust of his teammates first.
Yeah. And that's not easy for a transfer. I mean, because you're coming in – it's like being the adopted child, right? I mean, you're coming in, and I don't know if that's a good analogy or not, but you're coming into a family that's already established, and you've got to earn their respect, and it's not an overnight thing. And I think that's what people need to understand. It's not like he just walks in the door and instantly has their respect.
Right. Unless he walks in the door and he's, Trevor Lawrence, meaning like he's 6'6", he's got the best arm they've ever seen. You know what I mean? There's certain physical traits that can command, like, I don't really care if that guy's a jerk or like, have you seen him throw? You know what I mean? Like, we can win a title. I can suck up dealing with this guy for a year if it means we're going to win a title. You don't want to I'm not saying that's how Trevor Lawrence was. I'm just saying, like, guys will give you an automatic respect if you have that. And Jack Coan doesn't have that. I like his tools. They're better than I think people realize. I think his overall production and skill set was tamped down by the offense that he plays in. We broke down last time we talked about Jack Coan, how his numbers were so much better than every other quarterback that played there other than Russell Wilson, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I think he's got a better skill set than people realize, but if he's not confident enough in himself to go out there and gain the confidence of his teammates, then ultimately he's not going to be a good enough quarterback. I mean, when he didn't step in the lineup at Wisconsin until I think he'd been in the program for 2 or 3 years. So he had time to do it. He's got to expedite all of that because he's got 1 year. And I think that's something that's going to, because if you earn the trust of your teammates, then that ultimately will allow you to earn the trust of your coaches, because coaches care about that stuff. They, when we've been in quarterback places, I've been in quarterback battles before, we've sat down with teammates and asked them, hey, how are things going? You don't direct, who do you like better? This guy, that you don't do that. You got to be savvy enough to kind of ask questions to get them to lead into those things. But, that stuff matters to coaches. It really does. It should matter to the coaches in Notre Dame. And I think that it will. The other part of that is he's got to be himself. He can't be trying, because there's going to be a tendency to where, well, Ian did it this way. Well, I don't care how Ian did it. You've got to be your own man. You've got to be yourself because people will see right through that. So that's another factor. So the point we're bringing this up is Jack Coan has a lot more on his plate than just learning the Notre Dame playbook.
Absolutely.
And how easily he adapts to those things is going to determine, number one, his ability to be a playmaker, but then also to earn the – because players are going to naturally want to gravitate towards the guy that they know. Hey, we know what Drew Pine did last year. We've been in the weight room with Brendan Clark, and we know the work he's going to put in. He's my friend. We hang out. I'd love to see him get his shot. Well, then this other guy comes in who's out from an outside, and then all of a sudden he steps in and he's got the job. There's going to be some natural,
sure.
But if Jack Coan comes in and says, hey, let's, I'm with you, we're putting in the work, then hey, I love you, you're my buddy, but this guy's our quarterback.
Yeah.
And and that's what Ian Book did when he took over from Brandon Wimbush. The players loved Brandon. He was one of the most well-respected players on the team, but they also had a tremendous amount of respect for Ian Book, which made them accept the fact, even though some of them didn't like it, that they accepted it because they knew that Ian had kind of paid his dues and put in the work and had the right team first attitude as well. So those are things he's going to have to do. But then also, Vince, he's going to have to hold off a hard charge from the younger players. He's going to have to come in and be aggressive early. You don't want to fall into this rut early of being so afraid to make a mistake that you then don't make any plays. That's to hold on to the job. He needs to kind of have I'm not worried about winning the starting job. I'm worried about leading Notre Dame to a championship. And what do I have to do that? And that, to me, is going to be the biggest challenge for Tommy Rees with all these quarterbacks. When you get in a quarterback battle, your focus can be so much on winning that battle that you lose sight of the bigger picture. And I think that's one of the things that happened in 2016. The focus was so much on the quarterback battle that it wasn't on how are we building this team properly to go out and win a championship.
Sure.
And not only did they not win a championship, they didn't beat hardly anybody that year. And there was a lot of other circumstances, so I'm not saying it's a direct comparison. I'm simply making the point that your focus can't be on, I got to beat out Jack Coan, or if you're Jack Coan, I got to hold off Tyler Buckner and Drew Pine and Brendan Clark. It's got to be, how do I go lead this offense, and how do I go become the playmaker this team needs, and then not worry about turn. Because then when you're worried about the other guys, it's, I can't throw a pick here, I can't make a mistake here, I've got, and so then all of a sudden I'm not going to bang this corner route because it's tight coverage. I'm just going to check it down, and that's the danger of being in a quarterback battle. And so I think that's something Tommy Rees is going to have to do is, how do you push this group, beginning with Jack Coan, because he is the veteran, to say, hey, don't worry about making a mistake every day. Don't worry about if I don't play well this day, then all of a sudden I'm going to be behind. Go out, be aggressive, play your game, execute the offense, because you need to be focused on doing what you need to do to have a great offense, not so much on winning the job. And that's my big fear. And I think Jack Coan has to be the tone setter for that. He has to come out being willing to take those chances. As you get used to the offense, don't just take the check down because you're not sure. You make your read and take that chance. And if you make the mistake, then don't make it again. So that's kind of the thing for me is he just needs, overall, Vince needs to be a tone setter. I'm more concerned about that than I am about any physical, strengths or limitations he may have.
I'm not worried about that stuff. I'm not worried about the physical. I've seen that he can make the throws that he needs to make at Notre Dame. So I'm not necessarily worried about the physical. I'm worried about the off the field stuff and earning the respect and all that. Right.
And just that mentality of, because my big fear of Jack Coan more than anything, he played in an offense that was just as conservative and avoid turnovers like the plague as Notre Dame is. And that is probably, to be honest with you, my big fears. Can he break that mold and just go play ball? Can he say, hey, I got 1 year, one crack at this, I'm going to leave it all out there? That's what we need to see.